Hilariously, the new chairman of the Republican National Committee accidentally told the truth on the Fox propaganda network when he told Americans that they're better off now under President Biden than they were 4 years ago under Donald Trump. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bell before you go. I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, friends, we have a couple of clips to look at in this video, but here's the situation. It all revolves around a rhetorical question, a single phrase. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? And the objective answer is yes. Americans in 2024, as much as they may struggle, as much as it is highly imperfect, they are better off now in 2024 under President Biden than they were in 2020 under Donald Trump. And we'll get into the breakdown of exactly how and why that reality is manifest. But what's hilarious to me is the new chairman of the Republican National Committee, the new Trump toady, the guy who is responsible for fundraising and orchestrating the elections and re-elections of prominent Republicans, including Donald Trump, he accidentally told the truth on the Fox propaganda network when he intended to do the exact opposite.
Out. At the end of the day, this comes down to a very simple contrast between President Trump and President Biden. Were you better off 4 years ago than you are today? The answer for this entire country is no. I mean, yeah, we are better off today, or we will be.
The mother of all Freudian slips, and it was absolutely, he got it right both times. He accidentally told the truth, caught himself telling the truth, tried to tell a lie, accidentally told the truth again. But yeah, and of course, you know, people in the Democratic Party, liberals and leftists and progressives, people who are opposed to the Republican Party are having fun with this. The Biden-Harris HQ, the rapid response Twitter page of the Biden campaign, they posted this. They're like, this post was fact-checked by real American patriots. True. And it is true, okay? Again, which isn't to say that things are perfect or that there isn't colossal room for improvement. They're not, and there is colossal room for improvement. But again, after one metric after another, 2024 for Americans is better than 2020. And Chris Hayes has been harping on this from MSNBC for several weeks, and good for him, and more people need to be doing it because he's exposing the GOP's grift in real time.
They just keep trying to squeeze out a little more juice from that old Ronald Reagan campaign slogan, hoping that we've all wiped 2020 from our minds completely. But you know what? It is a good question. And if Republicans are going to keep asking it, I think we should keep trying to answer it. So, how good was your life 4 years ago today on March 13th, 2020?
I'll say, obviously, this clip is a couple of days old, but just bear with me because the sentiment remains.
On that day, Donald Trump held a 72-minute long press conference in the Rose Garden to address the coronavirus. And so I want to show you what that press conference looked like in relation to the actual facts of what was being reported on that very day.
Breaking news tonight, President Trump declaring the coronavirus a national emergency.
A national emergency. Two very big words.
The number of cases in the U.S. rising to near 2,000, at least 41 deaths, all schools closing in a growing number of states, millions of students impacted, houses of worship suspending services, landmarks, theme parks, sporting events, and concerts shutting down.
We don't want people to take a test if we feel that they shouldn't be doing it. 1.4 million tests on board next week. And 5 million within a month. I doubt we'll need anywhere near that.
The testing crisis, drive-through stations overflowing. President Trump vowing to boost testing and saying he takes no responsibility for widespread delays.
Dr. Fauci said earlier this week that the lag in testing was, in fact, a failing. Do you take responsibility for that?
Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all.
The chaos at grocery store lines where they stretch out the door, shelves cleared out.
At this New York grocery store, customers stood for 2 hours to check out. Aisles usually chock full of toilet paper, paper towels, cold medicine, even pasta, now lay bare with nothing left.
I showed up today and it's just chaos.
These guys are selling a lot of toilet paper. I don't know. There seems to, Tony, did you need to give some guidance that toilet?
And you get it. Okay. So the fact of the matter is there was mass chaos in 2024 that may not have originated with Trump, right? It's not like Trump created COVID. But Trump certainly exacerbated COVID with his inept, inconsistent, and dishonest mismanagement of COVID. And I know Republicans and Trump supporters, because I've talked to them and debated them, ask me to grade Trump on a curve. Number one, they would never do that for a Democrat if the shoe was on the other foot. So I'm not inclined to adhere to double standards. And I love pointing that out, by the way. Number two, again, we can point to direct things that Trump did and didn't do, which exacerbated the COVID pandemic, which created all of the chaos that we saw just a tiny fraction of, because, of course, it got considerably worse under Donald Trump's tenure. That was in March of 2020. Remember what it was like in July, August, September, October, right? It was atrocious. So, again, that was a good refresher to remind everybody of how bad it was. But in terms of how much better it is now, well, as Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, points out, last year, the United States economy grew faster than any other nation in the G7, more people working, more new business starting, more manufacturing, higher wages, record highs in the stock market, all under Joe Biden. Don't let Fox News fool you. And indeed, you shouldn't. Mueller, she wrote, has a great excerpt and screenshots of various charts that were provided by Chris Hayes during his big breakdown of this. And that was a 10-minute segment. We obviously can't play that for copyright reasons, but she breaks it down. And Chris Hayes breaks it down even further. So GDP is doing better under Joe Biden than it was 4 years ago under Donald Trump. GDP being like the total number of services and basically all economic productivity that a nation engages in, right? It's the most important key macroeconomic metric, and it's doing better by far under Joe Biden than it was 4 years ago under Donald Trump. Stock market is going through the roof, right? And to me, this isn't the most important macroeconomic metric, but it's the one that Republicans and Donald Trump himself love the most. Well, it's doing a lot better now under Joe Biden than it was 4 years ago under Donald Trump. New business applications have been higher under President Biden than they were 4 years ago under Donald Trump. Labor force participation, which is the total number of, what they consider prime working people who are eligible to work in this country, actually working, participating in the labor force, higher under Joe Biden than it was under Donald Trump. Manufacturing, we talked about this. Donald Trump swore that he would bring back manufacturing jobs to this country. Didn't happen. It is happening under Joe Biden, with more than 800,000 new manufacturing jobs thanks to Biden-era legislation. Wages, even adjusted for inflation, wages are in real time outpacing inflation, whereas wages were not doing too well in 2020 under Donald Trump. Disposable income, the same thing. Oil production, we're going to get into this one, because Donald Trump talks about energy production. Joe Biden, Crooked Joe, has declared war on energy. It's not true. We'll get to that. Green energy has skyrocketed thanks to President Biden's legislation, particularly the Inflation Reduction Act. And by the way, a lot of states benefiting from this are red states, because these green energy facilities and factories producing like green energy technology, most of them are disproportionately in red states. So red state economy, ironically, is benefiting from these things. The unemployment rate, considerably lower in 2024 under Joe Biden than it was in 2020 under Donald Trump. And just overall, it's been lower under Joe Biden for a longer stretch of time, and violent crime has plummeted. But again, we'll break down some of the stats. So Steve Ratner, I think he's on CNN, maybe he's on MSNBC, he's a fact checker. He also has been going over this to a painstaking degree. Fact check. Average unemployment rate for all racial groups has been lower under Biden than it was under Trump. Average 4.2 under Biden, 5 under Trump. That's overall. 3.6 Asian, 3.7 white, 6.7 black, 5.2 Hispanic, compared to much higher statistics for Donald Trump. Layoffs. American workers are being laid off at rates lower than at any point under Donald Trump. Again, great news. Trump claims that before COVID, America was starting to pay off its debt. That was a huge campaign promise. He swore that he would eliminate America's debt. Not only would he not add to it, he would eliminate all the debt he inherited. Well, he didn't do that. And as a matter of fact, he added more than $8 trillion, or about $8 trillion to the national debt. He added $4.8 trillion net of tariff revenues to the debt before the pandemic, and then added $3.6 trillion during it. Breaks it down in terms of the CARES Act, the 2019 budget, the 2018 budget, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. Trump came into office in 2017 promising to shrink deficits and pay down the national debt, but in reality, he grew the deficit every year he's in office, not just during COVID, right? So much for fiscal responsibility. He broke his promise, and even prior to this, massive global pandemic, he was still fiscally irresponsible. Trump claims that Biden destroyed American energy independence. That's false. Under Biden, America is exporting more of its energy than ever before, meaning we are selling our oil, our gas, our energy to other countries more than at any point, including under Donald Trump. Biden wins in this respect once again. In terms of production, so set exports aside, just what are we producing? Well, oil, gas, and renewable production are at record highs under Joe Biden, higher than they ever were under Donald Trump, which is, by the way, one of the reasons that many people on the progressive left have a legitimate beef with Joe Biden, because fracking and drilling and fossil fuel production has increased under Joe Biden. Now, so is green and renewable energy too, which is a huge step in the right direction. But even in the areas that Trump values most, fossil fuels, Joe Biden's beating him. Crime is a big one. Trump claims that crime has surged under Joe Biden's presidency. It's false. 2023 nationwide violent and property crime rates were lower than any year of Trump's presidency. Okay. So, folks, you get the picture. Trump is lying to America. He's lying to his supporters. He's attempting to lie to moderates and independents and Democrats. And listen, perception's reality. We talked about this. Democrats, 9 times out of 10, enjoy the advantage of the facts being on our side, right? But if those facts aren't successfully and persuasively conveyed to people, then it doesn't matter. Right now, Republicans enjoy polling perception advantages on crime, on the border, on the economy, even though they don't handle these things as well. Like even the border. I'm not going to hijack this video and talk about that, but we talked about it in previous videos where Republicans either create or exacerbate problems. And the economy, just generally speaking, performs better when Democrats are in power on all key macroeconomic metrics. That's nothing new. But the perception is there. And that's why you and I and Chris Hayes and President Biden and Democrats and their surrogates have to work viciously and persuasively to convey the facts to the American people. So to go back to that question, Michael Whatley, the new chairman of the RNC, was absolutely correct. We are better off now under President Joe Biden in 2024 than we were in 2020 under Donald Trump. And in many key areas, we're better off now than we ever were under Donald Trump. And that's the facts. Let me know what you think in the comments.